Hi, this is Kim, and this is my dog Boone. I'm just going to show a video today on the dog food that I make. The reason I originally started making this dog food was because Boone had horrible skin problems. He had some kind of bad allergy, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So he was constantly on steroids and antibiotics because he would itch and it would get infected. He lost almost all of his hair. It would never grow back. It was all patchy. And now he's got the hair of a puppy again. It's super soft. And he's just a much happier dog. No itching. And he loves his homemade dog food. These are some of the ingredients that we use to make the dog food. This would be one small batch of the dog food. For Boone, we end up doing this 4 times. We'll quadruple it, and then that would be enough for a couple of months for him. So we use this ground beef from Gordon's Food Service. It's 80/20 ground beef, and it comes in a 10-pound case. And then we also use these eggs. We use 1.5 dozen eggs for Gordon's Food Service, and they come in a 2.5 dozen box. And then the eggs, we end up hard boiling them and using the whole egg, the shell and the egg, so that he gets enough calcium. And then we end up blending it up with some water and with these glucosamine pills, which are good for his joint health. So we use 12 glucosamine pills for one of these batches. And then this is the additives that we use. So this is Dinovite. You order it in a big box from the company, just Dinovite.com. And it comes in like a powdered substance. You can use this just on dry dog food, or you can mix it in with wet or whatever you want. And there's serving suggestions for your dog on the packaging. So we use that. And then this is also from Dinovite. This is an oil combination. It has fish oil and other ingredients just to support his health, so he's getting everything he needs from this dog food. So step 1 of our dog food making is to boil all the eggs. Since we're doing 4 batches all at once, we put 60 eggs into a giant pot and let them boil, so that way it's fast and easy. So the eggs have finished boiling and I just drained them out. I'm just going to put 18 eggs in here. I like to put in the 12 glucosamine pills first, along with a cup of water. That way they mix better when they're at the bottom of the blender. When I put the eggs in, I like to crack them a little bit so that they blend faster. So I'll just go through and count out 18. So I've got my 12 glucosamine pills in the bottom, a cup of water, and 18 eggs that I cracked on the side, and they still all have their shells on. So I'm going to blend it up, and if it's too thick, I'm just going to add a little bit more water. You could always add the eggs without boiling them, but I found it makes the final patties kind of mushier and a little too watery for me. So this is how we like to do it. So I've got all my stuff together. I've got my 10 pounds of ground beef. I've got my egg mixture with the glucosamine pills. I've got my oil for the Dinovite, and I got my powder for the powder Dinovite. So I'm just going to mix it all together in this big bowl. You want to have at least a 10-quart bowl. And I like to have the ground beef out on the counter for a little bit so it's not so cold when you go in with your hands, otherwise they'll be freezing really fast. So I've got my meat already in the bowl, and I've kind of mushed it up a little bit so it's nice and smaller pieces. I've already measured out 2.5 cups of the Dinovite powder here. So I'll mix that in. This is one of the bottles of the Super Omega fish oil from Dinovite. Just pour that in. And then I've got the egg and glucosamine pill mixture. So you can see it's kind of like jello-y. Just be careful because it's still hot from the eggs because I didn't wait for them to cool. And then I just mix it up. I mixed up, this is one batch of the dog food, so for Boone we'll do this 4 times. I've got everything in here done, ready to go to make the patties. So We have these 1 cup scoops that we use. They're like ice cream scoops. We got these at Gordon's Food Service also. That way every patty, you know, comes out to be about 1 cup. So you can kind of see how much you need to feed your dog and adjust it based on, you know, how active they are. So for Boone, usually we'll feed him between 3.5 and 4 of these patties, each of these 1 cup patties. We just put them in these big Tupperware, and then in between each layer we'll put a layer of wax paper, and then we'll put them all in the freezer except for what he's going to use for maybe the next week. We'll keep those just in the refrigerator. So we just finished making all the dog food. It makes about 200 1-cup servings of these patties for Boone. So we freeze them just like this, uncooked. If you do want to cook your patties, the oil that you add kind of cooks out, so just be aware of that. You'll probably be losing a lot of the super omega and maybe some of the nutrients that your dog would need. So we quadrupled the recipe that we showed you. The most expensive thing in all of this dog food is the ground beef, because we have to use 4 for our dog, and they're each about $25 a piece. So the second most expensive thing I think is the Dinovite and the super omega, which, I mean, we used to just feed our dog the Dinovite powder on top of his dry food, and it helped a lot with his skin, but it wasn't until we started doing the full homemade dog food that we really saw a huge difference. So I think it's really worth it. This will last Boone, which he's 70 pounds. If I fed him 4 of these hamburger patties a day, it will last him about 50 days. So it ends up costing us about $88 a month. Yeah, so it's not too bad. It maybe takes an hour or so to get through and make all this if you set it up beforehand. We keep it all in the freezer, except for a small Tupperware that we just take out and let it dethaw in the refrigerator, and we have maybe about a week or 5 days or so at a time, so it doesn't get too rancid or anything before he eats it. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, just make sure with using all of this raw hamburger food that you keep your hands clean, wash your hands, bleach your countertops afterwards, because you don't want anything left growing on your countertops. And then of course Boone gets to lick the bowl afterwards. He loves dog food days.